welcome. You're watching Money Control. I'm Sakshi Batra, and here's wishing all of you a very happy International Women's Day. Well, in the past decades, there has been a massive rise in women's contribution, not just to their own lives and careers, but also to the economy. However, there are still many sectors where we really find very few women in leadership positions, and one of them is the real estate sector. But the woman who's breaking all glass ceilings in this sector is joining me today. It's a pleasure to be joined by Ms. Bani Anand, who's the head of Women's Wing of Credai and also a founder of All About Eve. Thanks a lot, Bani. Good to have you here on Money Control. And
thank you for having me.
A very happy Women's Day to you.
Happy Women's Day to you too.
Thank you so much. Let me begin by asking you, why don't we see so many women in the real estate sector or women realtors or maybe women in the leading positions? What is the reason that you really see over there?
You know, honestly, traditionally, real estate has always been a male-dominated industry, and largely it was due to the fact that it was a very unorganized industry. Over the years, obviously, you know, we've seen a lot of, regulatory norms come into place, which has made it very friendly for women to be a part of. It's just that change takes time to happen. So we are seeing more women in leadership positions, whether it's, CFOs or CEOs, or sales and marketing heads, or even promoters for that matter. But it's just that it's a slower transition, which is a little unfortunate. But I think the most important thing is men getting used to the idea of seeing women in a place like this. So even at a site, you would see female labor, but you're not used to seeing them in boardrooms, right? Women in boardrooms. So that's a change that's going to take some time to happen, but it is in the process of happening.
But would you say that being a woman in the real estate sector is an advantage or a disadvantage right now?
It's not an advantage in any way, unless you're going for that underdog story that, oh, we are so few of us that eventually, no matter what we do, we'll stand out. But disadvantage in the sense that, of course, there's rampant sexism. Of course, no matter what you do, the assumption, and this is not true just for real estate, but any, sort of promoter-driven industry or organization, is that the woman is kind of there till she gets married, and then the expectation is that, okay, she'll go away and that's that.
That's
or
the end
till
of the
she
career.
has a baby, or whatever, till family priorities kind of trump everything else. But I think the only disadvantage is that people don't recognize that in an industry which is as volatile as real estate, women can be a huge asset, given just, how their skill set is so aligned to making sure that everything is in order. They're, very perceptive.
Making sense of the chaos.
Making sense of the chaos, just introducing a lot of discipline in the industry, in the workforce as well. Whether it's like HR roles or, financial positions. So, I mean, the disadvantage also will take time to wear off. But I mean, I have been a victim of that sexism even in my own company. So,
okay. So I am going to come to your company. You are a director at ATS Infra.
Correct.
So if you could just explain to us, so what is your role really? You've got your education back in England.
Correct.
So how has that education really helped you contribute to the growth in your company?
So I did my undergrad in finance, and then I studied real estate finance after that. So definitely that has helped me in kind of understanding the larger picture.
Okay.
We studied what real estate was like in the American markets and, the European markets, which is not where India is today, but it gives you the foresight of what India could be or what India should be. We've recently, last year, had the embassy REIT come out, and REITs have been trading in the US since the 60s. And, we happen to have studied that, and this is back in 2012 when, I remember discussing this with my father and telling him, this is something we should seriously look at. So that education has definitely helped me become, a little more sort of perceptive towards, what is the kind of environment we are heading towards. Other than that, my current role is like that of any sort of second generation entrepreneur, wherein you're soaking in everything that's happening every day, making sure that, the decision-making process is a little more decentralized and easy, so that the pressure is never on just, let's say my father. Just making sure that, you're fighting the usual fires that you are in a place like real estate, where we don't know what policy comes out tomorrow.
And I wanted to ask you about, you're also heading the Women's Brink of CREDAI as
Yeah.
well. So what are the ideas or innovations that you've brought about so far that you've been at this position? And what kind of changes have you really noticed of the ideas that you've really introduced?
So CREDAI Women's Wing is only 3 years old. And CREDAI is 20 years old.
Yeah.
So before me, I had my, sort of mentor, and who's now the advisor, Darshana, kind of, handle Women's Wing, and she introduced Women's Wing to CREDAI.
Yeah.
The idea behind that was just to have more and more women involved in the real estate businesses. Given that it is a promoter-driven sort of industry, these are family businesses.
Yeah.
There are two ways and to look at this. Of course, one part of this is second generation, which is the daughters.
Yeah.
So kind of educating, the senior men and telling them that it's
Even
okay to
teaching.
have your daughter there, because
Yes.
my father was the one who kind of coaxed me into doing this. But how many women like me actually were coaxed by their dad to do this?
Right.
Not that many, It's not even an option that's given, which is just something that's been going on for, all these years.
Yeah.
The other, of course, part was the spouses, which is, wives who've probably now had kids, or, who are anyway taking care of, let's say, smaller parts of the organization or their CSR and, things like that.
Yeah.
But, could contribute significantly to their family business. So both are very different approaches, because you're trying to introduce women in leadership positions for tomorrow, which happens to be the second gen. And then B, you're also trying to tell the spouses that there's so much more you can do. Over the last 1 year, ever since I've been a part of Women's Wing and taking care of it, we've seen a lot more female representation even at the event. So from, let's say, 3 women, I was one of the 3 that would go to an 800 conference. We have like 70, 80 now.
Okay,
that
so
just
there
show
is a
up.
Progress, yes.
Yeah, and we've managed to do a lot of skilling under Women's Wing. We've done, we take care of the Clean City movement, CREDAI Clean City movement as well. A lot of labor welfare activities. So we've done a decent bit, I think, in the last 1 year.
Right. Now, we have been talking about stereotypes in the sector and across the world as well. And conventionally in the real estate sector, what we have seen is that how, it is always considered a man's job to invest in a property, to buy a house. But over the last few years, have you seen a change over there? Are more women really coming out with the decision to maybe purchase a property for herself?
Most certainly. And one of the reasons why that would traditionally be the case was because men were the ones who were, bringing money to the table.
Yes.
As you see more working women, kind of evolve as well, and come into the picture in cities, majorly in, the tier 1 cities. You see that, they are signing the checks, they're writing the checks. We see a lot of sort of single, female working women who are just, buying properties for themselves as well. Of course, the spouses also have a huge role to play.
Right. So what are the challenges that you really face in a sector that is faced with a whole lot of challenges, and also the whole thinking of how maybe it is a corrupt sector surrounded by people, and, also the trust deficit that is really ingrained in the sector?
Look, nobody can deny that there is a trust deficit, because nobody can deny that, people have lost money, that there have been developers who've been the bad fish and who've not delivered. And, hard-earned, income of all of these really hardworking people has,
Gone down the drain.
It has gone down the drain. So you can't argue that at all. I'm not in a place to do that. But I can also say that literally there is now no room left for any corrupt practices. Look at just how many developers have been weeded out in this process.
Yes.
The entry barriers are now too high for anyone to kind of be in a position to be able to face you. So
absolutely.
I don't think that is the case now, because we are a very regulated industry. But it has happened in the past, and it's very unfortunate. But I don't see it happening from here on.
Right. But Bani, you are not just a woman realtor, but you're also a millennial. So is that a double whammy? Do you think the glass ceilings get even tougher for you?
I don't know. I don't honestly care for this concept of glass ceiling only. I just feel like, why are we even restricting ourselves with some, metaphorical glass ceiling? I mean, if you really want to do something...
But aren't the situations like so tough? Like you also said, probably it was always a male-dominated industry. So probably the situations and the things were not conducive enough for the women to be there now.
I agree. But now we have the opportunity to be shameless and say that, listen, this is not something I deserve and I'm not going to stand for it.
Right.
The fact that you would not look at me in a board meeting just because I'm a woman, I'm not going to, deal with that, and I'll probably tell you to your face that I think this is really rude and this is sexist and I don't think you should be doing it. And this is something that people didn't have an opportunity to say back in the day. So I mean, the thing is, we have to accept that this is where we are living, this is what the situation is like. So which is why I even actively took on the role of convener at Credit Women's Wing, because I was like, I can either sit and whine about it or I can do something about it. Now, doing something about it is a lot of hard work, is a lot of commitment, is knowing that the change is not going to happen within one day, 1 week, 1 year, but it's a process, and somebody has to start that process, and we're trying to do that.
Right. Now, in the real estate sector, what we see is that this sector is reeling under a huge economic slowdown. It is faced with a lot of liquidity issues right now. There are a whole lot of challenges that is being faced at the sector. So what is your growth outlook for the sector? What are the challenges that you're facing as a realtor?
I think today, of course, the liquidity crisis is something that no matter how large a developer you are faced with that challenge. Because at the end of the day, even if you have financial institutions backing you, if they're not dispersing the money, my construction is still stuck in a slow economy where sales are not happening at the velocity that one would have hoped or wanted them to. And it's a vicious cycle that needs to be broken. And I hope that happens, because I know the minute there is money in the market, we'll all be able to deliver to all our commitments without any delay, because the delay is not coming from our end. It's coming from the fact that there is money that was even promised to be given to us, but now because of this entire sort of panic situation, that money is not coming to us. So how we can't create buildings out of nothing, right? So that is definitely a challenge. One really does hope that the market picks up as well. It has seen a slump in the last couple of years, and it's not rocket science to know that we are a country that is possibly now even the largest population in the world, and we have a significant housing deficit. So the math wouldn't add up if we say that, oh, there's oversupply everywhere. That's not what the case is. So we just need to identify where the real demand is, work towards that, and have the government sort of aid that process for us as well, and make it just a little more viable economically.
Absolutely. And lastly, I want to ask you, Bani, since we have been talking on this subject of the International Women's Day subject as well, what do you think? What are the measures that people like you or the government also could be taking to have it more comfortable for more and more women to really come into this sector and play a role in every segment of the sector as well?
Correct. So personally, I just feel like if you are a part of an organization, then you should ensure that women feel really safe, they feel comfortable. You need to create an environment which is conducive to women working even long hours, if that be the case. You have to have very, very strict sort of harassment laws in place, and just make sure that you don't do the basic things like if you have a female CFO, you're paying her a certain amount, and just because you have a male CFO, you're paying him more than that. So equal pay is something, these are basic things we can all ensure within our own companies. As far as the government is concerned, I think safety is a huge issue. I really hope we can work towards that, because I don't even think it goes to then are we a part of a male dominated industry or not. It's just, are we safe walking on the streets of our own country? It doesn't matter. More for females than for the men, but I think just making sure that you're open to hiring women in leadership positions. You are not perturbed by the fact that, oh, is she going to get married? Is she going to have a child? Just have good sort of maternity leave procedures in place. And just make sure that you are practicing all forms of equality just within the four walls of your own company. I think that should really help women wanting to be in senior positions, even in an industry like real estate.
Thanks a lot, Bani, for sharing all your thoughts there with us. Here's wishing you all the best, and also hoping that we see many more women taking on leadership roles in all the segments of the real estate development. And on this International Women's Day, we at Moneycontrol are celebrating the spirit of womanhood. Cheers to all your dreams and future.